Special treat for tonight. What is Lag BaOmer? Erev Lag BaOmer, Hey Tov Shen Lamed Daled. It's Erev Shabbos Kodesh. The Kvi is the same as this year. Yidum u'muvarim mekama mekoyim atayimim liyuchud yom Lag BaOmer v'chashivusem alaser. We know in a lot of places it tells us what's unique about the day of Lag BaOmer. What's the chshivus? What's the mile of Lag BaOmer? Herei Tzedei Chemed. You see in the bottom. Asif as dinim arechetz Eretz Yisrael sif cotton vav v'shom nisboy. Over there is a big arichas about this. Oh, you know what? Let's look. The Rebbe says to look in this day Chemed. Let's look. Turn the page. Masha goyin noyagim. Turn 5 pages. Got it? You got it? One more page here. Masha noyagim bir hakodesh tzvas laharbez besimcha b'lev l'yom yud lag ba'omer. Kosev era pischa tshuva b'yeridei assimilation analysis of cotton gimel b'shein agon some sefer yeridei assimilation lamed gimel. Shein daite noich b'zeh. Did he know the difference between tzvas and miron?
It's very close.
Very close. So
Names like this one.
yeah, yeah. Tzamoyed the Ketshuva from the Sam Sofer. It was at that time there was an unbelievable tzaddik zayin, Tofkot tzaddik zayin, about 200 years ago, 190 years ago. There was an unbelievable earthquake in Tzfas. Almost every single building in Tzfas was collapsed.
And a lot of that also.
Nebach, a lot of Yidden died, and there was a Yelola in all Klal
How many
Yisrael.
years ago?
It's 190 years ago. Tofkot tzaddik zayin. The Chassam Sofer got up and he said, "Adover Mavil." The Chassam Sofer said that Yerushalayim was upset. Yerushalayim was Toiveas El Boina, because Yerushalayim should be the place, and that's anyone that learned today 3 Prakim Rambam knows that Hakal Mailam L'Eretz Yisrael, the Hakal Mailam L'Yerushalayim. A man that marries a woman, it doesn't matter, him or her could say, Zehu, I want to make Aliyah. And if the other one refuses, the other one is forced to go. And if they still refuse, the Bezin could Amen. And the Bezin could force a get. And in Eretz Yisrael Gufa, Hakal Ma'alum Yerushalayim, is the Rambam today. Mamish, the Rambam, those are learning 3 programs today. And Chassam Sofer has a long tshuva about this. And also, it's brought in the Pesach Tshuva Lagabe Eretz Yisrael, because it says that Tzedakah of Eretz Yisrael has link kedima. There's a whole, it's not simple, but there's a link kedima. Some Sefer says that within the Tzedakah of Eretz Yisrael, the Tzedakah of Yerushalayim is a link kedima. He said, look, if there's a Yid in Tzfas that doesn't have bread to eat, so obviously, he says there's a link kedima to the Jew in Tzfas. But if the Jew in Tzfas and the Jew in Yerushalayim both have bread on the table, the shaila is now a little more money to have shoes on their feet. The din is that Yerushalayim has a din kedima over all the other cities. That's the famous tshuva from Chassam Sofer and Yeridei Simareish Lamed Gimel. And over there, the Vaila, he says that he doesn't like this whole thing of Lag BaOmer. שעכשיו אח שדורם המרחק כבו ידרשו את השם ביום ל"ג בעומר בהילולת שם בחייב אם כי כל פנוסם לשם שמיים וזכרם רב בלי סופק תראה ודילוגה ודילוגה יהיה אלי אבא. It's a play of words. Dilugah, he says Dilugah yeh אלי אבא. And he's playing on the words of Shir Hashim, כמו שכוסה בתויסם, יש כוסה גם ממנו, פעם זה עצמי, אני מן הפרושים, כבן דורתה. The story of Ben Durta was that he had a whole dispute with Chachamim about the Korban Chagig and Shabbos. So he packed his bags, him and his son, they moved far away to the Darom in Israel, from the place where you bederech rechoike and you can't be Pesach in Yerushalayim. And then he was potter from bringing the Korban Pesach, so he never, because he didn't want to get into the issue of the machloikis between him and Chachamim. Shaloi etzarech lis Yosef sham mishagim hagim ifneim. Shaloi erze. In other words, if I lived in Israel, I would move far away. I'd move to where did Ben Gurion live in the Darom?
Yeah.
Sdei. No, Sdei Boker. Sdei Boker. He says I would move to Sdei Boker. I would move to Sdei Boker. שלא יצטרך ליס יושב שם משענה מרהוג מפניהם, שלא ירץ לסחבר עמוהם וזק יקבע כמה קרקורים קרקר בפרי חודש, או ירחיים סימן טוב צדק ווב בקונטרס מנהוג איסר אויס יודלת, המקום יש אויסם יום טוב ויום שנס למנס. The Pri Chodesh has a problem with any place that makes a Yom Tov b'Yom Shenas Lamnes. The Amrinu b'Perikam Derashona Kamaisa Botl Acherinaysa Maisifim Bitmiya that we were Mavatal Milas Tainus and you're going to add new things. Who knows what's the Purim of Yom Chaf Adar Aleph Be'ir Moiladati? Where was the Chassam Sofer born?
Why not your Gimel?
I see you're not a Boki and Shmuelson.
No,
But I'm a Boki and Shmuelson. The Chassam Sofer was born in Frankfurt am Main. And in Frankfurt am Main, B'Yom Chav Adar, they have a Pesach called Purim.
Oh, because
it's called
program.
Yeah,
and they said
it's called Purim Fat Milk. Purim Fat Milk. Schnell look together. Purim Fat Milk. And Chassam Sofer said that when I was a child, I was Mekoyim Terachti Harbe L'Kayim Minig Ir Moiladati Yosim Purim B'Yom Chav Adar Aleph. ومنك متصرعين بيوم خاف جيم العادش وفين ازدهيتي وما هو ما هاي كافخيم مشي بالقول من نشير بمثل خيم لكوتشكين أم لكوية مويت شلا ناس بيناس فلا هوسك بشاس وبويسك بشماكن برمز رميز راك منيز هسبر بتاينس من هوج بتايم لو يداينا.
What's wrong with
So
another Yom Tov?
because we don't have the right to make Yom Tovim, the Rebbeinu Shalom makes Yom Tovim. And the Pri Chodesh says that the Gemara says that after the Magvatal Megillus Tainus, you now have a right to make new days. So he says, some Sefer answers so that there's a lot of Kehillas that made a special Chagiga.
It's
like in Lubavitch, we make Yutas Kislev and
Megillus Tainus. Making a Rosh Hashanah.
Right. So the Pri Chodesh says they're Magvatal Megillus Tainus, and you're not allowed to be Moisef. The Chassam Sofer was said no. That if ever a Yid, Chas v'Sholom was, we went Mechaim L'chaim,
right,
was a danger for his whole life. So then, not only is allowed to, he's mechuyev to make a chagiga.
Right.
Yutas Kislev,
Yud
Beis Tammuz, Purim Fat Milk. But LaG Boim, whose life was saved? Who gives you the right to make a new chagiga? That was the problem the Chassam Sofer has.
The Jewish people say when the Zohar was written, the whole life was given to the Jewish people.
Yeah, good, but this is what the Chassam Sofer. Makom HaKol Asosiyim Simcha V'Adloka. V'Mokim Yedu Davke Shishil Chelt Al Piyah Sha'aka Poinim L'Shom Lo Yadatim Rashem Lasses Kain Eile Divrei Teros Dvore Teurev Dvore V'Kadoshim V'Gam HaGoyen Sher L'Meishim V'Rav Avlavov במהדורס חמישו סימנטל סבבוב דיבר מסכם שכנור תומה על מה שעושים שמחה ביום LaG BaOmer ורמיס צדיקים מסענים ונעשה יום טוב ומויס רבנו הגודל רשבי זיה ממה זה קורא לולו דרשבי היינו לא ילש שמחה ולוי שהלך למנוחס אך איזון עוזב לאנוחס. That's what the Shalom Mesha writes.
The question is like a strong question. He died, so
Takich Sidus has a Shaila, Sidus gives an answer. Mitzat Galya the Torah, there's Mitzat Pnimius the Torah, Mitzat Galya the Torah looks like the Tzaddik went away. Mitzat Pnimius the Torah, we know that Yatim.
the opposite is more now.
Okay. ומה שנוהגים שם ליסר בגודם עוברים על בלטשכס, ויש בהם שם דרכי המוירי, ויש לדבר הרבה, כבר אמרו כשם שמצווה בפרט.
That was not 200 days ago already.
Yeah,
Wow.
כשם שמצווה בפרט בדבר שנוגע וחשוב מצווה מויסם. ישראל קדושים, ורצם ליסקס במצווה, פשיטה שבימי הארי ושר קדושים לא יויסם, רק לימוד על קברי ותקנון ומתפילוס, פשיטה שמרנה ביס יוסף וסייאיתר לא ימניחם לעשות כזויס, תמחן עזה וילדקייט, da me tanzt, da me singt, da me soirev begodem, rak achkech nespashta minni, v'achkech choshu minni kodem. Me yarim shelayon shechaz sham, vani, he says, the sherlam eishiv, orevlem, shimalokchem oise momen, they took the money, instead of making a big fire, and they took the money of him, and farnes nani et Yisrael, but yoyse neichel l'rishbi, v'ano aloi, l'mat kan vora from the sherlam eishiv. So, summarize, we have three G'dol Yisrael that have big problems with the celebration of Lag BaOmer. The Pri Chodosh, the Chsam Sofer, and the Shor Lameshev. Hine Masha Pikpikal Masha Yisrael Lulubim Ptiris Rashbi, Vila Al Shor Tzadikim, not Mesanim, Kamash Kosov, Marom, Simen, Tovkov Pei, Atta Techza Mashkosov Bazeh, Reb Chaim Rappaport, Beshut Maim Chaim. He answers it already. We'll deal with that. So he says, but we have already in Chassidus a lot of answers. He says, "Ashar pepukim which is a chronic shvialdus is shagon chikre lev, a gon Sfardi. Maybe he was a rav in Greece. Pikpek al min exem. Before this, lamali lavatal min exem. Nikvoid the shirashbi vaat em yode sifri chikre lev leaders dvor v'kadosh. Matzosid b'shut shem arya rechaim toich simen yudalo. Chach shevi. Hine agon anal Rav Guvre, mufursim tzitkosev v'chasidus noysev v'gedlusa b'toyra lachen higi kasher b'lavabe, v'loy nosap negdoylem v'ravim anoygim kein achilu shaloi motza tam l'minig zeh. Aval anoych yogati u'matzosi tam nochel l'minig zeh, shamar b'im b'simcha al kebri atzadik rashbi b'yem lag b'oime. The Shemar says Poshet, v'zo, hine yadu ma shekosev b'shabes daf lamed gimel, shegozer Malchus al Shimon Beyachai Shiyorik, Lachem Borag Borach Vyosha B'Ma'ori Yud Beishonim. Ad the miskase bot like Zayda, Ein Sham Ba'erete, V'Omar Sham, Hoy B'Srachish Linis, Ezel V'Take Miltz, Ksiv V'Yov Yak V'Sholom. Ein Sham Shanatz Ales Shanitzel Mecherev Malchus, Mashkos V'Ravshim Sham V'Take Miltz G'der Shosa, Yak Shanitzel Miyadeisa, V'Lachem L'Zechen Ales Shanitzel Rashbi Mecherev Rol Energ V'Yodem Kova V'Yemis Osei, Yem simcha shemeis misa b'dei shemayim v'loy misa b'dei adam v'lachem bocher b'yem zeh yem ha-misa shemeis k'derech kol haaretz v'loy nerek b'dei adam v'oso yem zeh yem mishta v'simcha l'nesh shenasa lo sheksila Hashem mecherev malchus v'erech yom shar machik zeh at shemeis b'yedei shemayim. He says he said posh the teretz, and he turned the Chsam Sofer kasha into teretz. He said, what does Chsam Sofer say? Purim fat milk, that's legit. Why? Because we got saved. Our life was saved. The Jews in Frankfurt am Main. He says, no. And what happened to Shimon Beyachai? The king wanted to kill him also. And he was saved. So which day should we celebrate? We don't know which day he was saved. But what we think we know is Baruch Hashem, he passed away like Mrs. Kolodom, not Rachmana Litzlan. He wasn't executed. So therefore, on the day of his yahrzeit, we make a celebration that his life was saved. This is what the Shem Arya says. Imkein Sora Teluna Chsam Sofer Echve V'Moed Shel Nasa B'Neis U'Be'emes Nik V'Moed Zal Nesh Nashel Rashbi V'Protes Al Keverois Et Tzadik Shesosim Usmeichim Karu Gemalchus Loi Nitel Lekvura. We know that the Romans, they were such cruel that the Bedavke would not let the Arugi Malchus to be buried. It was terrible. Lachein Misha Zocha Lias Al Kivre B'Yemzeh V'aderoi l'smoich l'zecher anes shenasa loi v'kivri mechichel of shenitzkel mecher malchus keruge malchus loi nitna l'kvura v'alkeva yudum makirim benisei. So therefore we celebrate by his kever. V'ayim shechnor semeneshu t'chesivov al nes rabbi tzorech lavor. That if your Rebbe has a nes, you have to make a bracha. V'shom sivzayim al nes odom nesun kuyoy ben tzureh v'chaver mevorech. V'ayim shemogan vam shesh days the boy tervayim l'kach shaper onu moedim mahalav shemizvorech al nes reshbi b'oisa yom shekova l'ag ba'omer. So Isai he's considered an Adam Masuim, Isai is Rabba Moedim Shel Yisrael. So you're mechuyev to celebrate a Lag BaOmer. Befrag of him Ashkos Lil B'Shem Rashi Vomis. That Kuf Chavbezim B'Dalav Meshuvas Agoyin Dois Yom Shemei Sodom Godel. Sasem Chachamim Mikol Tzviv V'Mashivim Mishiva Kivre Lachem Yem Zachman Kehelis L'Chol Eis Kivre B'Kfar Miron. That's why it's a time to come B'Kfar Miron. Kova B'Yem Simcha L'Zechanesh and Asal Rajmi. V'Sham Hem Smeichim Sosem Usmeichim. There is over there you can find Sason and you can find Simcha. Right? You can find Sason there. V'Sham Yitnu Yasnu Tzidkes Hashem Sh'Osef. Neis Latano HaKadosh Hazeh V'Atzilei Mecherev Ro Bochru L'Zeh Yom HaMitzvah L'Zikoron Hanei Shemeis Mitzvah Atma V'Lo B'Nei Adam Zeh nearly Emes Abora L'Yasher Minhag HaKadosh V'Hakodem Nisyasa Minhag Zeh Mekedoshim Goinim Kedmoinim V'Arizal Halach L'Sham B'Yom Lag BaOmer L'Galeich B'Noik Minhag Shem Megalchim B'Neim Pamrishin Nichem Pas Rosh Moise Mishta V'Simcha Gedoyla V'Miltza B'Taim L'Koved Atana HaKadosh Nisyashiv Tmius Hagon Achoset Chsam Sefer Minhag Zeh Ad Kan V'Ivrei Shem Arye Takti Dvor Kedoshim Ki Namu Metukim Medvash Apirya Namte Ki Nofak Dak Ve'eshkach Tam L'Shvach B'Dover Zeh. Love the Gdoli Sol Asfardim. Yesh Lahem Eight Sofer. Yesh Lahem.
Was there a thing with Rashbi's son that he never died and was in the attic and the wife used to come up there with Shilas or something?
Yeah, there's a story with that Rashbi
So
son.
maybe they celebrating the son's
Yeah.
Arichus Yamin.
Okay. All right. Okay. Could say all kinds of pshatim. Okay. Okay.
One second, I'm just wondering, the Asar gives them, I hope they didn't let them bury them, or they let them.
Asara Rugi Malchus, some of them were worse. They were eaten by a dog with this, and that was terrible. But in general, we find different places in Shas.
Akiva was burned, but you know what I'm saying, you go about the
He's not talking about specific case. Harugi Beiter lo nitna lekvuda. Here you could look in together. So we find a lot of different stories where the Romans didn't let the Harugim be buried. That's the point. And for sure, a guy like the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who they hated so badly, if Rachmon al-Islam v'chaz v'sholem, they would have caught him, they would have killed him, and they would never allow that he should be buried. Obviously, the Eibush didn't allow such a thing to happen, but that's what he's saying. So that's why now that we could come to his grave, it's a big thing. He has a grave. If Chas v'sholem, if Chas v'sholem, the Romans will have what they want, they would not have that he should ever have a grave. That's what he's saying. Here, no, I have to turn one more page. No. Actually, it's good. The second line here. No, you have to turn a page. V'hinei.
Moshe Rabbeinu also went away.
Verstehe, but here.
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Yeah. V'hinei, milulus reshbi, yadaiti mladus shemine kodem. Mekodem nedeli shachitshu. You're not supposed to spill this. Wait. Yadaiti mladus shemine kodem. Ach mekodem nedeli shachitshu svarim rabonei goyne gederenu. Lasses can be yudalad ir, okay, veremer balanes. And the Steichemet says that Mekorav Noidali, that there's a new minig to make a celebration on Yud Aladir and Pesach Sheni and the cave of Meir Balanes. Main dugmas Hilulus Reshbi. V'hinei tam Hashem Arya lo yechav al Mashen Eschad Sholasis came, but Meir Balanes. Although I don't know why he's saying this, he could say the same shat that the Shem Arya said for the Reshbi, he could say for the Meir Balanes, more said. But the whole story in the Gemara, I don't know why. But anyway, Steichemet doesn't think that adds up. And if you're going to say the Pshat of Shem Arya is Akasha and Meir Balanes, the Gamen and Messiah to me is Asher Lameshim, Asher Surfim Godem, the Yeshua Darke Moirim, Baltachres, Valken Shalachti Kolokos of Lamaila Rabon Kadishoi, Gloine, Doireno, Sheberetz, Akoidish, Tveria, and Bikashim Shediene Almor Ro Al Kotho, Lachadish Dover Meata, Valarishonim Metstarim, a Paktukin Aboni Ashkenaz, some safe for sure Lameshu, Bola Hoisif, Mayana, Puka Goina Manal, V'tanuch Daiti, V'zoisa Sheshiva Me'ava B'inyan Zeh. I love many Gedolei Yisrael Asfardim, but among them the two kings in Lashoina Mazoi is the Birkei Yosef and Steichem. No. The Birkei Yosef is the Chidah.
A lot of pshatim were born on Birkei Yosef.
Yeah, exactly. So he says, I wrote a letter to the Rabbonim in Tveria, and I said, the Goyne Ashkenaz have a problem. The minhag akodem of the Shima Beichai Lag Boima, and you guys made a new minhag on Pesach Sheni, the Meir Balanes. What's going on? So they wrote back. Re'inu kol hakos, we see everything that you wrote. V'ine shalom eishu adelo yoda mitus advarim hifriz alamid. The Rabbonim in Tveria say that the Shalom Eishiv didn't know Poshet the facts. He was hifriz alamid. He exaggerated. Because of Shlishim Kol he says that the people in Israel wouldn't listen to Kol HaMoedim. V'sharlei Morish Kotzim came. V'sham nitzam chachme manhiga eide b'chol shona v'chalila aloim shekulam shoga beroyu Elohu adov. The emissaries kisro kedoshim bo mekatzvi oretz v'yamre chaykim lalas liroz b'chaga matzos b'chaga shuaz kedei l'shtatecha kivrit tzadikim v'koydim zeh zaira. And it's in Arabic probably. Boim gam al keverish bi in a mer balanes verutzim l'smoich l'mokim kvaros v'ine mokim atzeves in a mer balanes yazda yisadnu sham beis hakneses beis hamedrash v'lem them sham bekev b'shem kol yisrael machzik v'delem that Torah. That the Rabbonim in Tveria got together and they built a beautiful beis hakneses beis hamedrash on top of the kever of the Meir Balanes. Umeisa Shem hoisa zois chanukas habayis mekudesh beis hakneses beis hamedrash now. He hoisa beyond Pesach Sheni, Pesach Kodem, Pesach Sheni. V'hoya asifa gedoyla, the Korah betonu beterosa Yishel Remeir Balanes, v'achke choya sosam v'simcha. Then we learned the Torah, and then who came? Sason and Simcha came to the thing. Ad lahafli. V'onu kulim v'omru, kei nasa v'yom zeh v'chol shona v'shona. Kei niska lachzas b'nayim Hashem v'inyu beis hamikdash meir v'enem nikva yom zeh v'harbiz v'simcha madlikim v'manoyre b'roshim and mole asefel mole shem zayis v'koyre b'godim mehem mafkiyim v'hem adlikim kamar alapidim v'cholish shenod v'liba b'kir b'yosam oir v'y moise v'hoylech b'er pnei melech b'tevel b'shem acholok lovin she'en lo yimra v'chen yesh mevin eze bize rikma shalo yatzlich l'malachton v'serifos nitakanosan ma'al nale is lahu b'toich asefel la'al soira Kol ha'imdim shemevorchim oise yor oire nahare v'af hu im eskaven kenegel mevorchim v'noider matnas yoda l'kupa shel zdoka v'toif tzei toira Kol ha'nidr v'nidr miyadam amunim ovid mesira that right away they give the money for the tzedakah. Not only they promise and they say ahin ahed, they give it right. V'gam kol ha'kesav ha'nimtza b'sefel ha'nal u'nimker v'nimtza l'mamunim ha'imdim ba'azora l'chalak Yetzel lahachis leib nitkoim lilu nishmas remer valanesu ziva huadora. That's the beauty of this celebration. So that Rabbonim and Tvei say, listen, you have a kash on this?
Yes.
What's the kash?
The oral Torah says that Meir was buried by the seashore, so the waters that flow over his body should flow over to Yisrael. He wasn't buried in a regular grave. They couldn't build a building on the seashore where he was buried.
Yeah. The thing is that the Rabbonim and Tveria said that we built a Beis HaKnesses, a Beis HaMedrash,
Beautiful word.
and it's beautiful, and there's the problem is the Chamachloikis. There's those that say it's in a different place. There is the authentic one. I think is the one with the bazaar, the one that everyone is selling you a trinket and a chmonza. And by the time you get from your car to the cave of the Meir Balanes, it's escalating the cashiness. But bottom line is,
It'll make you a lot of mishabel over
yeah, v'im yirtze lalas ala moike beged yokod. Hamamunim oidim loy ke loy nochem l'sarfe b'medura. U'makdishu moichin noise machalkem v'moin alanim l'kavod tzadik sagi noire. Hein elik tzoysad loka meshupa menuka shroisim. It's they're saying that the whole minig is meshupa menuk. It's a beautiful minig. The Shalom Eishiv was magzeh. Asheroisa v'lulus reshbi remeir balanes v'loy pasach be'yisura. Burim kabda Hashem l'chaved tzadikim rav nahoira u'smeichem adug mesimchas beis Hashem v'beis abechira. Hayal ala das loim Hashem v'ebrim chazal shoma b'al tashlas v'ribe Hashem shoy noisim l'har b'sayra. In the Beis Hamikdash, if they put a lot of Shem for Simchas Sheva, you're going to say it's b'al tashchis. That was a mo'ilam. Adam lo yamor, elo kolam she'adam oisel anos gufa ima moiner lanos etzoinoi Ein beim Mishum Baltashris, kama Shabir Agoen, Fikre Leif, in Yeredes, im Yudalef, Vagam, Shabisoy, Pachuve, Pikpak, B'masha Shomer, the Betzvas, Madlikim, Dvorim, Yikorim, Yelodus, Shbi, V'kotzev, Shalai Motzeb, Shum Ete, V'ike, Mishum Baltashris, Midirabona. So he says, true, if you're burning something fancy because you want to show off, they said it's a yoivin about tashlos derabbanon because emes is because minatoida. If you want to brag and you want to show that you took a nice jacket and you burnt it, in a camp, they're making a bonfire in a camp, and they want to dress up a homo and put him on a stick and burn him. So they're going to take an old jacket and a pants and a schlappen at the legging at the Viola. The kids had a good time, and the camp instead of taking the kids on a trip that cost them $5,000, let's say it cost a few old alta shmatas. So mina Torah, that's not called baltashris. Elamai midrabanon baltashris. But if you're going to use alta shmatas, the anyway lays beimra that the shmatas that there's nothing you can do with it. So then even midrabanon it's mutter. Seems that's all. It's mashbild. So it's again to summarize. The Rabbanit Tveria said that the Chikre Lev had gesagt that even if you do a fancy beged, it's only a derabon. But the Metzias says that most people don't do it. They don't, and the Memunim don't let them do it. Heck, sometime if a guy comes with a fancy beged, what do the Memunim do? They say, "Give us the fancy beged, we'll sell it, and we'll give the money for tzedakah." So it's not true that he was missing. He was ill-informed. The Shoyel Meshiv, who was living in Lvov, the Rav of Lvov, at Nish Gevist, what's going on really, and the Rabbonim in Tveria, the Sfar, the Rabbonim are incensed that in Ashkenaz Meret Lashon Hara.
That fancy beggar that was an oval and you couldn't sew it all.
That's what he's saying exactly. Those type of godim that you can't do anything. ולא שרשם נוהג כן והמינק שנשתב מחודש דאפילו בסמוך בשבע למדליקים כי אם מבלוים נכס הכהן וממניהם אין שם מריאיסי יש ליטחס. Everyone brings a raya that you can only need shmatas for the fire because that's what they did in the base of Mikdash. So the Rabbanim in Tveria turned it on its head. Hine riisi yesh litchas. The Maida Tony Tana mibloi lefi mashkos avaramba mesoif perikei milchas miila big de kuhuna shabolo moilam behem kishar kodshim. Big de kuhuna shabolo is the gaboyim are going to sell it. The gizbarim are going to sell it as shmatas. Just like the blood that was after the Korban Pesach, that the Gaboim would sell it for fertilizer. So if you use that blood or you use those shmatas, because it has a monetary value to the Gizborim in the Beis HaMikdash, therefore yesh b'hem dimila v'chadoshim ein moilam b'hem lohachi noket mibloi lashminen gam shemoilam b'hem kishar kodshim mikol zel simchel beis HaSheva l'kovet tzibur l'tzera korben l'chashivu v'nitne lo'ones b'hem. Mamish turned it on its head. When the Mishnah said "Mibloi mitzvah hakoyanim," it didn't mean dafke has to be shmatas. It could be good begodim l'kovet the Beis Hamikdash. The thing is that someone might time that simcha the Beis Hasheva is not an avoid. It's not like a korban tomid, a korban musaf. So therefore, if you're going to use the shmatas that are in boxes and about to be sold by the kizborim, is yesh b'mishum kamashmal in the Mishnah that the simcha the Beis Hasheva is considered a chelik from the avoid of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore ein b'em dimiila. But versteht sich, if you want to use fancy begodim, v'lo yasal afuki chadoshim, the given dika nos atzmoi v'reina badloka les leke baltashris mashkosav in the chikrei leiv sheinoi mamish risham nagukein emes agam kakronim lo nagukein. He says the emes is that it's not true. Even the achronim we don't do it. V'amagid lo toil b'dim yoyin. Ulero amagid be'eze odem beged yofier v'omer shemalicha l'sorfa b'medura ach lo yiro shemamunim al zeh ikfu yodem l'sorfa oy shafim emes sorfu. This was the letter that he got back, that Zdei Chemet got back from the Rabbonim in Tveria. בזמן מורם בייס יוסף לא ימניחם לעשס קיים, ושגם בימי הארי לא יויסם על כבריקים, לימוד לתפילס. כל זו היפך המקובל אשר שמענו והנדם, that's not true, שמורם בייס יוסף וגדוי דוירוי, went out a bunch of snags, and gesetzte mit der Nose up, und gelenkt Mesilis Yeshorim, it's not true.
It went to me.
Gedoyle, versteht sich, I'm using poetic license. Gedoyle doiro oilem lemira, mokim fudes rash bi, v'sosim, v'smeichim, mit getanzt, mit gehulet, mit gemacht kules. Yeah, the Beis Yosef and the Arizal, B'yam Elula delay, King Kosef, B'Sefer Kemach Soiles, B'Shem Sefer, explanation should is Aleph Tzadik, Nogit Sari, V'King Kosef Zocher LaDavid, Perek Lamet Ches, B'Boyem Lag Ba'omer, Os Samach Rebe Akiva, Es, Weiß ich nicht. Kann sein.
There is also,
Ah?
there is also used to go there.
Yeah.
I was dancing by Rav Shimon.
I don't know. B'Boyem Lag Ba'omer, Os Samach Rebe Akiva, Es, Hey, Talmud v'Gdolim, V'Niskayim v'Olim, V'Bitza Teure B'Rabban, V'Shemei V'Mashinik, Leilek B'Lag Ba'omer, Al Kever Ashbi V'Rebeleze B'Noi V'Oichem V'Shoysim V'Smeichem V'Zel Hashem V'Anir Isi L'Moiri My Rebbe, the Rechem Vital says I saw my Rebbe Pam Achrim Lag Ba'omer Holoch Shem Kom Nebeise V'Shem Gimel Yomam Rishonim Shem Shavua Hahu that he went Arizal with his whole family and they camped out for 3 days. Very sogis, hey, Idli, Shoylechas B'nei Cotton Shem Kom Nebeise V'Gilechas Roishi Was Hashem Yemishta V'Simcha Hakam Hevi Reb Avraham Alevi Ibishnas Hanun Zayin Holach Kam Hu V'Yonoye Gloime B'Chol Yom Nach V'Gam Yoisi Shom Amar Nach Reb Avraham was a Talmud of the Arizal, and he was so mitzvah in the Purim Beis Hamikdash that not on Tisha B'Av every single day in the year he said Nachem. This, I don't know why, but there's something about this story that the Rebbe told over this story every single year for 42 years. When? With the Shabbos before Lag BaOmer, after Lag BaOmer, Asachmol on Lag BaOmer, by the rally, the Rebbe would tell the story. That the Rebbe Avram came with the Arizal, and he said Nachem al Lag BaOmer, and then, as we'll read it inside, that Arizal came to him and said, Shimon Beyachai came to me, and the Rahman al-Islan, he lost his son because of that. Because that and Talmud Shel Arizal. And he was a big tzaddik, and he had so much star from the Churban that he said Nachem every day.
How come not Chaim B'Sar? From then on he stopped?
What was our clothing?
From then on he stopped?
That he was mitzvah b'yoyim,
Oh,
Lag BaOmer. And he said Nachem b'toich daladamas or whatever in the Har Miron b'toich samuch v'nida l'kivre shel Shem Beichai.
What was the point? Why did you say the story? I knew this.
I'm asking you, Shiloh. I
I
asked the Shiloh. But there's so many stories. This story the Rebbe told every single year. And
he said about 3 days before Lag Muhammad already started camping. And as a kid, the Saudi people come a week before. They start building
Barbecue,
Right. They said they cleaned it up already in the last
Now?
2 years.
1 mile away you can make a fire.
Right,
1
right.
mile away. That's a far.
I was there maybe about over 30 years ago. Oof.
Ja,
Het geschlept, de gerecht in Kvossen.
The chicken.
Don't ask. I tell you what, one of the things I think Pashtus, why the Rebbe said the story is, because there's a big discussion about Lag BaOmer. But the point, this story was told by Reb Chaim Vital, which is this.
clear white by the Rebbe and the Riyadz didn't make a fire.
No, they didn't make a fire. Nothing. No. And the tak, if you look, the Rebbe's Mitzayim to the Menhogim. No. No.
And
nothing
do with Russian communism, not allowing.
No, before this is going 200 years. The Rebbe's Mitzayim to look in the Menhogim, the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, they used to go out in the field and they L'chaim and eat eggs. They went in the field, the quietness, Gewenken Goy, from the Mizrach Ma'ariv Tzof and Dor. They could make as much fires as they want.
But stones as the Kalina Yogamacht and the Kai.
Right. It's not here. I know. I don't.
The region in Mach.
Right. And the fire, as you see, is a minikod, and it is a minikod. Even though there were those that were fakfek, the Shalmeshev had a problem with it, and because we just went through, he thought of the Baltashkas. But the bottom line is
How much money it costs to make a bonfire?
Yeah. Right, the Shalmeshev thinks it's
supposed to be over 50 fires tomorrow night.
Yeah.
52, I think they said.
Wow.
Ballpark.
Wow.
Big one.
Every block.
Baruch Hashem.
ואחרי שסיים אמר מוידי כי רוס רשב"י עומד על קברי, ואמר לו אמר לאיש הזה אברהם, למה הוא מנחם ביום שמחתנו? ולכן הוא יהיה בנחמה בקרב. רחמנא ליצלן.
That's why they lost his son.
ולא יוצא חודש יום ומס לו בן אחד וכתיבו לו תנחומים. This Avram, זה הוא בספר נוגד המצב, also בשו"ת הארי, והמוגן אברהם וחיודם בהר היטב רמזו. I think maybe also another thing. There's Hayois is brought in so many places, in so many Makoidas, and it's a very strong story. So you see the Gewalt. You see, because there's a
Of the day, not
yeah,
some.
yeah.
It's not a tzaddik. that-
Right.
that-
Thank God to Sefer Mishnah Chassidim ein l'sabel b'yom zeh l'mitzvah l'smoich b'simcha l'shmiv and daber it's Yisrael yelech to Miron v'sham yismach simcha gedoyle v'zish kosav hagon chida b'moyde b'etz b'yom lag b'yom yarba b'simcha v'noyde shiritzonu she's to b'yom zeh. And you should be mei arizal v'shor kedoshim ha'holchim al kvorim v'marbe v'mishnah v'simcha l'kavod reshbi v'gam aramo kosav marbe tzaz. וכן כוסף הגון הפרי חודש, תימה שעכשיו נוגע להרבה בשמחה. So Taka, the Pri Chodesh said it's a tema, but Lepoila was Nagu. Fin Kosov Agon Yagetz Min Kosher Oisam Yem Ze Yom Tov Min Devrem Mar Besimcha Ein Shom Aresh Lula Derashbi Hi Lo Loyal Lechol Yisrael. Veloy Kumesh Kosov Ashel Ma'ishav Anal the son of La Nochas. Mashiach should have missed Sadikim Adar Yesh Lisanas Lisabel the Yem Ze Shiny then Lisabel Lisanas by Kizeu Rotzen Tzadik Reshbi. This is the strongest teretz, really, in a way, from all the tirutzim that there is. There's a lot of tirutzim last year with the Tamayim. And the Shimon himself said that should be Yom Simcha. That's, that he said that day was Chol Yomei Iskatarna.
You see, it wasn't no photo. And a couple of years before this year was a big Ason in Meron where his Hilula was a terrible day. Yeah.
It happened, Taka. Yos Simcha Yamad Lehuda Vanasa Yoga Manochem Vesudalo Mechras Miltzor. Yeah, B'yom Lag Ba'omer V'ayin Royal Lachido. Says anyway, there's Machal, there's a Shaila. They say if you Taka pass away in Lag Ba'omer, could be it's a celebration to do with his thing, with the Torah Rishbi and not with the Petira of the Rishbi. Anyway, the Gedolei Achsid among them there is the Petira of the Rishbi, but this they're just pointing out V'ayin Royal Lagis Lagon Chido B'Sefer Maris Ayin. וזה לא שמה שכוספתי בברכי יוסף יש מי שכוסף תירס לשבי ולג בעמק ככוסף פרי יצחיים. פנויד ונוסחוס כספרי זה לא ירבו ותוז ספר ונוס חמיתיס ונוסס חשורים שסידר whatever רב שמואל ויטל בן רבינו רב חיים ויטל בשאר הכוונס הרך צד מהימה וטעם שמייסו חוב דל אלף ואח כך למדו היי עצר רב עקיבא רב שמואל ורמי היי נסים חזר רשבי that there is another Nakuda which is that was the day that the 24,000 students stopped to die, which is that's the time that's burning Shulchan Aruch, by the way, and therefore it's connected to Rashbi because Rashbi was one of the 5 Talmidim which lived. Yes, Sherish B'Sim Chazu Sha'osim. Uherich B'Zev. V'lo Yibab B'Piv V'Layma Shuptiris Rashbi V'Efshik Ma'Shikosa V'Ani B'Tuv Ayin the B'Yom Lag Hischel Little Mad L'Rebakiv Egel Rebakiv L'Rashbi Chaveir V'Atken L'Shoyne that the Chidos says that there is another Mahalach B'Chlal. The Lag Ba'omer has nothing to do with the Petida of the Rashbi. That because the Talmid the Rebbe Akiva stopped, and there's a Kabbalah the B'Yoim Zeh Hischil Lulmed the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and Chazal say Hoya Oilam Shomim. So Rachmana Litzlan there was a Tishtakach Torah in Yisrael because so many Yidden that were learning the Torah died, and then B'Yoim Lag Ba'omer he came the stop, and the Rebbe Akiva started to learn with these 5 Talmidim, which 2 out of those 5 Talmidim is Reb Meir and Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. So that's what he's saying. He just wants to answer the Shalom Meisiv. He says, "You have to fast." He said, "I understand what you're asking a Shaila. Maybe even didn't even pass away this day. You're asking a Shaila. What's your Shaila? Your Shaila is, why don't we fast? Why don't we fast? Why should we fast? Why Elula? Who says Elula this day? Emma says we never don't say Elula. We're just arguing back to Shaila Misha. Pia Amar Neche, my David Elula b'Yem Lag Ba'omer LaKavod Reshbi Shenismuch b'Yem Zev Simchas HaTorah Gedosh. Shenisgala Sisri Torah al Yodai. First of all, it's Simchas Torah, and also Nisgala Sisri Torah al Yodai. Who are Rabban Moed Shal Yisrael? She'el Hem B'Moed Torah Simchu al Shenismach Bayamu. That was the day he got smicha. Because of a pri chodesh. V'zel shoyno mi yesh lam simcha zulama v'efsher shesimcha lo tamid shoyis v'achkem v'givish l'meisa. V'gam ilul remer balanes l'fi amor. That's a different day. L'fi amor shesimcha b'mlag v'em v'chem asmicha.
Couple days before.
Right. V'chein ro lis yoyim ilula l'remer balanes shenismachos. Hu oy remer lo'olam omer inichem balocha. L'kein nikva l'kvoide yom Pesach Sheni yom tev midivreim. So therefore, they say, therefore, Neshtamas, that the two Talmidim that were left, they're saying, Taka, Lagbaim is a minute kodem. Pesach Sheni is not a minute kodem. It's fourth, it's like it's the same reason. And therefore, Hele Teuchen Divrei Agoinim Rabboni Sfarad, Bira Kodesh Tveria. How do I know it's the Rabbonim Sfarad? Because look at the signature, Rabbi Avram Chalfon, Rabbi Shimon Abadi, Rabbi Yosef David Abulafia, Shloim Ma'amu and Rabbi Mamo and Rabbi David Siton. All Sfaradim. And therefore, that's the bottom line. V'ata b'shnas tofresh mavo v'reisi michtav eis hayoytze b'yeres hakodesh Yerushalayim. It's called Tzvi. Megilyon Vov. V'shivuz begolu shab'ar echad ma'sefer al minhag hazeh v'shom Megilyon Ches v'maimer al dvar Eilula Rashbi kosav ki echad amiyuchad heishiv al dvar ma'arim barichos v'hu v'shom tamtzat dvorav l'hashal k'ayim aminig ayin shom. Atzos shagonach sam sofer atzmei v'chelik rechaim simen kuf samach gimel is vakechem a pri chodesh also l'kvo yom tev yom shnas nes l'yochde l'rabbe. L'mach jabot l'megilas tainis achinin l'mesifen. Well, the daito mutter v'kosher adovar kosav al zeh v'zel l'shoyne v'lag b'm yechir shenes chadash l'tamidei Rebbe Kiva v'achachur v'nloke pri chodesh ein sham mizbar deruche noicho chachama deruche chachmos, I'm sorry, noicho b'minig zeh. In one place, when he argued on the Pri Chodesh, again, the Pri Chodesh said, you're not allowed to make new Yom Tovim, Klal Yisrael. So he argued, he said, what do you mean? We in Frankfurt am Main, we have the famous Purim Fett milk. So he said, no, because it's so he argues, and he brings a line from Lag Ba'omer. Elva b'tshuva chelik yeridei acharoinak, k'mevor ba'prat, b'tshuva chelik yeridei z'marav v'shal. In another tshuva, it's a stira. He points out there's a stira, two tshuvas of Noida B'Yehuda. Turn quickly the page. This is one Chsam Sefer and another Chsam Sefer. Omnam yodati ki shamati achshav akshar dori v'merchik gevoyu yidrishu. This is Chsam Sefer Yeridei Reish Lamed Gimel. Yidrishu es Hashem b'ira kodesh tzvaz b'yom lag ba'im b'yilul deshbi. He says taket kavana b'shmem shemayim, but he says I don't like it. And then he says like this. This is what the Rebbe is going to quote it soon. Look on the other side, because I'm skipping a lot here because the time is not allowing for this. He writes like this. Look on the other side, in the second column, 4 lines from the bottom. Same page, second column, the last 4 lines. That some stuff was brilliant. Some Seifas is like this. The Rashi says in Pashas B'Shalach, based on the Gemara in Rebbe Akiva, that there was 61 sudas the Yidden ate from the matzah they took out of Mitzrayim. So which day did they start getting the mon? It's a Giris Shaila in the Rashi bus. It's either Yom Tezvav or Tezayim. Probably it's Tezayim because it doesn't make sense. Tezvav, you have to count 61 sudas. So count. The Gemara says that was a molid. Nisan is always a molid.
1 suda per day.
2 sudas per day. So 60. So think about it. The Tezvav, one meal they ate in their house. Don't count that. One meal that they ate next day by day, because 61. So don't count that. Now let's count 60 full days. So Tezayin till Tezvav. So when were they hungry? On Tezayin. So most of the Girsas and Rashi have it that B'yom Tezayin. I'm sorry, B'yom Tezayin. B'yom Tezayin year is when the mon started to fall. Right. Oh, Zokter, some Soifed, the Medrash says that after they finished their last Suda, there was Shloisha Yomim Re'evim. And B'yom Shlishi they got mon. Now there's two ways. You could read it like the Chassam Sofer, the way I would read it. I would see there were three days hungry. That means they were hungry Tezayin, Yud Zayin, Yud Ches, and they got mon on Yud Tes. But that's obviously not the way the Chassam Sofer is learning it. He's learning it, they were hungry on Tezayin, Yud Zayin, and Yud Ches is gefallen the mon. So Loy de Medrash, and Chai Iyar is the day that he didn't get the mon. So the Minig Yisrael is based
To make a simcha.
a simcha for the day that we got the mon. Who besides Chassam Sofer could come up with such a huh? Who will come up with such a thing? Then he goes. This is a tshuva, an unbelievable long tshuva. As I said in the introduction, Chassam Sofer in Tov Kuf Tzadik Zion, when there was the big earthquake in Tzfas.
What year was that?
190 years ago, Erech. So he said that there was
Which the Bas Einstein, right?
yeah. Then he said they should come stand next to him. So he said some Sefer said that because he didn't because they didn't pay attention to Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim was Taveil Boina.
Before this earthquake.
No, he was there at that time. He was living in. It was about 190 years ago. Is what the Sefer was.
By the way,
not much before.
There was little.
He was already a doer. He was the Chassam Sofer, not a child.
There was little earthquake in Israel in Yerushalayim yesterday.
Oh yeah, interesting.
From
And what we're learning now is to do with today's Rambam, because today's Rambam it says the Hakol Ma'alim Eretz Yisrael Hakol Ma'alim Yerushalayim. So this truth is really all about that. It's about. But turn the page. I already made a copy. You look at turn the page. Tough, and the second column, the last piece. Well, the sign benechom, because he felt bad. He wrote a tshuva. So he said, "L'sayim benechom ha'omer mashkos l'il the kfiyas yemoy b'masiyas nes u'kal v'chem deraisa. L'fiyan is daita l'fizay yempurim v'mechanik deraisa. Achmal asas behem l'shloich monos l'had b'kneres l'nasa zecher acher zeu derabona. V'oive v'neoisa shum zecher l'mechanik u'purim oive mitzvah deraisa." And look, Chassam Sofer will always have something like this. He says, "Her is chap." He says, when we say Chanukah Purim is a derabona, it means to give shalach monos is derabona, to light the menorah is derabona, but to celebrate for a nes is a chiv deiraisa. Hafadan neima, to celebrate you to skisel with beis tamas with kasha.
That's a fear.
That's that no kasha. That's a minik Chabad. That's a minik Chabad. But to celebrate, it's a chiv deiraisa. Kasha, that's minik Chabad. But to celebrate, it's a chiv deiraisa. Turn the page, the other tshuva, which is in Erechaim.
So like Mohammed, he said you should make a silver.
So he here in the fakir, but there was no hatzola Chaim l'chaim. He has a problem, and in your day he has a problem. But in Erechaim is fakir. Look in the first column where he again 7 lines to the bottom. V'chein nogum b'kama medginis akilas lasas lamapurim b'yom shenas lamatzola b'yom amehem b'goyla. V'lag b'oim yochiach sheneschada shadei tamidi Rebbe Akiva v'ya'acher achurben el al korchach m'nei shenas v'chutz la'aretz v'lo keprichodesh v'nog yisur shaloi. But bottom line is, it's a stated in one place some Sefer bashes Lag B'oim, in the other place some Sefer says Lag B'oim is the greatest thing from sliced bread. Lag B'oim is the greatest thing ever since they invented sliced bread. So it's a stira. Let's go quickly. Turn the page. The first ha'orah from the Rebbe in the letter for Lag B'oim. Now, with all this hagdomas that we learned the Tuchsam Seifers and we learned this Dechemet, now we'll understand the first ha'orah that the Rebbe has in the letter. Reis Dechem, the Sifas Dinim, Marechas Eretz Yisrael, Sif Cotton Vav, the Sham Nizbor, underlined. That means I want you to look there. ולהויר, אשר בשו"ת חסם סופר חלק יורדי הסימן ריש למד גימל מויסף טעם על פי המדרש המחולקים ש"ס פרק רבי עקיבא V'rei gamkin Pirush Rashi b'shalach Tezayin Aleph, which says that the first day of Mon was b'yoyim b'yoyim Tezayin.
No, Yom Chayir,
Right. Al pi hamedrash was b'yoyim Chai Ir hischil Amon leir. Heute sagt der Rebbe, al pi zahav lehei lachel gem zeh mini oz. Ich verstehe nicht. If,
Before Rabbi Shimon Chai.
yeah, why didn't they celebrate always?
Every year.
Every year? Well, the divach zum Sefer Atzma huschel bazeh rak b'mei Rebbe Akiva shut chsam Sefer chilek erchem sof semen kuf samach gimel alastire b'maskones beizat shuvas kfai heir b'zdei chemed shah. The Rebbe said, I'm not going to go in. The Sdei Chemed already said there's astira. On one tshuva he bashes Lag BaOmer, and the other tshuva he supports Lag BaOmer. Ani lo medaber al zeh. The Rebbe says, I'm asking a different kasha. Here you're telling me that it's Huschel be made Rebbe Akiva. And there you're telling me that the celebration of Lag BaOmer is from the Mon. The Mon is 3,334 years. The Rebbe answers. Gedolim is a mitzvah ben hagi Shabbos hagadol. Shetaim amoros shekodim mitzvahs mitzrayim. V'lo mitzvah b'shas u'medrashim she'eskirim. V'oid shebepashtus atam shekova b'Shabbos v'lo b'yud nisem ne'misas Miriam. Mashma shebevintayim al kaponim loy no'agu b'hem. The Rebbe says l'chayr l'takapela. What we find Shabbos hagadol, we have a big celebration. Why didn't they even celebrate Shabbos hagadol from when there was a Nes Gadol? Why did they wait
That Shabbat.
700 years to chap? Why didn't they? Yeah. Well, choymer adove yesh loyme shetamim anal levadem ein maspikim lahavdel hayoyim ulatzaynim b'minig miyuchas. Aber kshebo oid mu'ure choshuv yoyser v'nesoyrer v'niskar gam zeh shekoydme lahoyer from the cancer megalgul and schus liyom zakei umein zeh matzine ba'alocha ubedin deiraise begilgul shua. There's a concept of a gilgul shua. So megalgalin schus liyom zakei. So really, this was a day that he didn't get the mon. And merely mishum hachi, we should have had a celebration. Elamai, be later that Reb Shimon Beyachai, and that day was Nitzel, it was Nifter, it was Elula. So it's a snowballed. It snowballed into a very big day. Megalgal and Schus, Liam Zaki, it was Nizgala Lamafreya. So we started to dig. This other on the face of it, it's a funny some sofer. You started to dig, you found, according to the Medrash, that was the first day they had the mon. Okay. So why didn't they celebrate the Yom Zeh and all along? And so you're making jokes. The day stuck up. No, because they realized that this was a Yom Zakai. So we start digging and we find out Takazoi. This is not Stamatog. There's more schusim and more schusim and more schusim. There's a lot of schusim in it. We see this taka a lot of schusim in it. Let's go back in the pnim. Shiraleim yuduam uvorim bekam mekayim esatayim liyichud yom alag ba'omer b'chashivusim alosek. Ashiraleim yeshlemer aklal b'divrei zal de'elu ve'elu divrei l'kemchaim afilu k'sheyesh klukta b'neim. Malachas kama v'kama b'inyan sheyesh shlemer d'chad mara machod v'lei pligi. There's a lot of reasons, says the Rebbe, for the celebration of Lag BaOmer. But you could say mara machod v'lei pligi. They're all true reasons. The boy Posco Tamir Bekivim Alamas, Tam Shlili, Aim by Maisa, Manias Ezek. The Norach only brings that the Gavaldo Lag BaOmer is that they stopped dying. But on the other hand, there's another reason. The reason that's brought through Yom Simchos Agdelo Shereshbi, he's Tal Kusoy, Valiose Lamodin Bolshana Haidna is Kaim Be Nishmosi Be Achida, Beilihita, Beis da Bakas. Vishtadalus. The Maimon we learned, Moida the Kamaimon we learned to Shabbos. The three things, Dveikus, Iskashus, and Achtus. So, the Rebbe is saying, there's the floor and the ceiling. The simplest reason for Lag BaOmer, Proskulamas. Then there's a lot of reasons, like we said in Naoda, there's a lot of reasons. And then there is the highest reason. Dveikus, Iskashus, Achtus, there's no bigger than that. Simcha Gedele Kol Kechat, Shanasiyam, Simcha L'chob Neisel, Shemitzu L'smach, Simcha Zershbi, Shem Beitachim, Nefilas Apayim. ושייכת וקשר גולו משני עניונים, אשרי לאחר שמייסה תמיד רבי עקיבא, וירשבי, אחד מאלה שקיים העולם, לאחר שישונה, אחד המיוחד ביניהם, כדי זה רבי עקיבא, רב של כל תלמידים, דייך השני ברחם מכירים ככך. So the shaykhs between these two timing, Poskud Talmidei Lomus and Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is very obvious that it says, because he was from the 5 Talmidim that stayed, and through him the Torah continued. So the 2 reasons of Lag BaOmer are not so different. Poskud Lomus and Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is not 2 different timing. It's really Hainu Hach. V'Omer Yochel ani niftes kol elam kulam enadim yem shenivresi v'adat hepach betiklan hoges ela talmidim shelo inogu kovet zelazeh. What was the problem?
You hear the word Ingras Korel Madi?
Oh, what was the problem? He said, "Yochel ani niftes kol elam enadim."
How?
What do you care? He said, let them burn in heck. B'mazok in English.
No.
What do you care that they're gonna zambrot in Gehenim? This was the hepach hagomur from lo inogu kovet zelazeh. Talmidei Chachamim, Talmidei Rebbe Akiva Harishonim, Afilu Zebazel lo inogu kovet. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai no kovet afilu metayid was is given moli dinim that Melamayla Takem given dinim afem. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai said no, I'm going to give away my schusim. Yochel anin lifter is kol oilam. Even a yid which is a chayev bedin, the Bezdin Shalmayla says he is chayev. Ani yifter oisei. I want to stand in his place. I want to be mezakeh him.
I heard in a different place the Rebbe says, and in Shabbos, you're not allowed to carry from Rashut Echid to Rashut Rabin. What happens if 2 people do it? Or 2. Hashem Bar Yochai says 4. One says 5. Why Hashem Bar Yochai says 4? Because 2 people doing it. He said there is a goof, there's an Neshama.
So you can't blame.
Doesn't want to do that. I can't only lift the din because I'm saying,
this is my Torah.
And the Yom Tiroto, this is your
Allah is like him.
the Allah is like yours. So Dafka he is the one that's saying it.
In a Chod Meze Kodesh B'Teres HaKadosh Teres Chaim Merod HaChaim Tzadek Lies. Boy, the word. Goyness. As one is Be'yonim Be'efim Glivin HaMev L'Maitz V'Nyon Rashbi. What do we have to learn from the Rashbi? Number 1, Teros Nase. Number 2, Avos Yisrael. Kol Olam Kula Ech Shematzov. Av Shemin Sadim Betuah. Zoka Kliptur Mizeh. So I'm going to have Avos Yisrael for that Yid. Av Sherak should be V'Chaver Teros Nase. Av Shel Kol HaKaras L'Kvoya. Item LaTorah Be'efim Shebeisa. He will Mude Be'efim Teros Nase.
It's interesting that the Lag BaOmer at night, nobody's sitting alone. The whole dancing the whole night. You don't see people sitting by the camera. The Simcha is so strong that you can't even know.
It's like the same kasha of Simchas Torah. So the Rebbe is saying the word is that we have to learn from Rashbi that at least the 5 minutes that we learn, or the hour that we learn, the zman we learn, it should be in the oifen. It's kavua benefesh. And the din is kavua loy bottle. That's why Yid will have strong, not to be bottled to the velka, because limud HaTorah v'him is kavua benafshe. So it's Ameris, asher skulas yom zeh, koyachim skulas zeh lekvoy yitim b'Torah b'kol yom, v'evim the terosam nasem, zeh shekva yesh lekvi sitim zu, yoysev ala b'keflayim l'tachiyah, t'mam ratam b'sheshamana ma'etzer v'sayim, kabbalah soil b'Torah v'atzan, kabbalah soil Torah b'rabim, because there's a mile when there's a shir Torah b'rabim. Mitach Avos Yisrael shebli agbol ishtadol kol hatolah b'shem Yisrael mitzvah b'chol ha'olam kuli yasa gamkin kanal that I should have Avos Yisrael. I should learn and we have and I should influence every Yid. Kabbalah Sel b'Torah la'atzim u'lashbiya sivosam sheyasu kain. Okay.
Learn and teach other people.
Yes. Okay. Well, you might have known.
Well, the first one,
No, that was the down line. Huh?
Whoever wants to talk about it.
I was thinking he's talking about himself. But
I actually remember Robert Levank and Lag BaOmer, and there was a mic by Hashem Bar Yochai, and we hear this, and we was sitting listening to it. What was that? Remember?